Good day, sports fans, and welcome to the seventh and final lecture of Cricket South Africa's Level 1 umpiring course, brought to you by Western Province Cricket Umpires Association. My name is Tom Mokorosi, and as usual, my batting partner for today is Abdullah Steenkamp, and we have got a bowler today in the form of our poster boy for the course, none other than Vijaya from the United States of America. I believe Vijay is currently in Dallas at the moment, and we will be chatting to him about umpiring in the United States. Good morning to you, Vijay. How are you?
Doing very well, Tom. Thank you for inviting me for this meeting. I was part of this meetings as a student myself. Thank you for the great work yourself and Abdullah do to train the upcoming umpires.
Great stuff, Vijay. So I am putting on your illustrious CV at the moment on screen. And I thank you for joining us for the seventh and final lecture of this course. We did have you as our poster boy, and a lot of people have been wondering, why did we decide to have an American umpire as our poster boy for a Cricket South Africa course? Well, of course, for those of you who don't know, myself and Abdullah were in the United States of America in June, delivering some practical outdoor training. And Vijay actually joined us in Dallas at the Texas Super Kings Indoor Academy called 22 Yards. And so we've built up a great relationship, not just on the field, but off the field with Vijay. Vijay, here are your stats: 7 one-day internationals, 24 T20 internationals, 6 women's T20 internationals, 6 list A's, and 5 T20 matches. I believe those 5 T20 matches were the Major League Cricket competition, which took place in July 2024. Tell me, Vijay, out of all of these matches or any other matches that you have umpired in your career so far, which has been the most enjoyable, and for what reason did you enjoy that particular match the most?
To be honest, I enjoyed almost every one of my club assignments because that is where it all started. Each game I have religiously practiced what I didn't know, and I used it as an opportunity to get better. But honestly, obviously, everyone wants to get to the top, and I should name my very first Major League game as my favorite one because that was done in very challenging conditions, about 42 degrees of dry heat. Even though it was a T20 game, I felt very tired after the game. I should honestly admit it. But again, challenging weather conditions, not just that, it's my very first DRS match. I was training on TV DRS for about 2 years prior to that, just waiting for that first opportunity to come through. The very first delivery was an LBW appeal bowled by Kagiso Rabada to Matthew Wade. It went, the decision, stood. It went for a review, and I really enjoyed that very first ball of my career. I can still remember that very first ball of my career.
Great stuff, Vijay. It seems like you've got to a great place in your career at the moment and you're enjoying it, which is very important. But take us back and tell us how it all started. What led you to becoming an umpire, and where and when did it all start for you?
So, I mean, even before I came to USA, obviously from one of the colonial countries, India, the game is spread wide and far. And in school, I was in boarding school most of the time, didn't get too many opportunities to play. But during the holidays, I used to organize school tournaments to help my younger brother play the game and stuff like that. So I used to also volunteer with umpiring and stuff. But fast forward to United States, after I discovered lots of cricket happening in United States, I joined a club, and there were lots of opportunities to umpire because I was single back then. Most of the club members are married, they have plans on the weekends and stuff. I made use of every single opportunity that has come my way. And, you know, that's where it all started. I started taking the certifications, did all the right things, A, B, C, D, all the way to Z, not just trying to jump up the ladder, take shortcuts. So,
How long has this process taken you in total, Vijay, from where you started until now?
I would say I would just talk about what I did in the US when I started in 2010 as a club umpire to when I completed all my exams is 2014. 2014 is when I completed all my certification exams. But I mean, the learning did not stop there for me. Every month, I do some kind of an online exam to just make sure I'm still learning what is required of my job. And it took me about, as you know, the first Major League game happened in 2023, sorry. I would say it took me about 13 years, but prior to that, I got into ICC panel on 2019. So, I think that gives you the answer, Tom.
Great, Vijay. So it's a long journey. It's not an overnight gig. I think a lot of
Yeah,
people see us on TV and think, oh, that guy must have just started umpiring and now he's doing his first match on TV. It's not the
yeah.
case, is it?
Yeah, I mean, I get that question from most of the umpires almost all the umpires that attended my online sessions. Right after finishing the level 4, the first question I get is, when is my first so it's a very take those questions offline. People on the call right away, but I take those questions offline and explain them the process and the hard work that needs to be put up. Not just the first ICC game, you have to go through these private tournaments in US, even though I would call them semi-professional, semi-organized tournaments, where you have to travel at your own expense. Nowadays, that has changed after Major League. Thanks to Major League, all the leagues that are coming up, they are, you know, paying the expenses for the umpires for their lodging and travel and stuff like that. Prior to that, every private tournament that happened in US, you're traveling on your own dime and you are sometimes copying loss of pay from work because your vacation has exhausted and obviously you're taking away time from your family. I mean, umpiring in US at this time, I think it comes with a lot of sacrifice, not as seen by many. But, I think we are in a good place moving forward.
Great, Vijay. So tell me, are you now a full-time cricket umpire and are you able to earn enough to make a living, or do you still have a different job apart from cricket?
I still have a different job, Tom. Not a full-time umpire yet, but at this time I have already umpired for about 3.5 months this year. This is the most most number of cricket games I have umpired in all my years of experience as an umpire. But again, next year is going to be more. But I think that is when that's the decision point for me, whether
Mm.
to, jump ship and stuff like that. But I mean, looking at the way the corporate market is, I don't know if that is the right time to make the decision. But for the time being, I'll still ride on both the boats.
Great stuff. Now tell me, you've obviously umpired with a lot of umpires around the world. What would you say differentiates a great umpire from a good or average umpire? What sets them apart and makes them better?
Well, the three things that I have noticed in all the, I mean, not all the, but some of the illustrious umpires, elite umpires, is their honesty in giving feedback to their colleagues and also their honesty in acknowledging their strengths and weaknesses and growth mindset. All are aligned to growth mindset. They learn from the past mistakes, both of their own and also their colleagues. And communication, again, clear communication to avoid any kind of misunderstandings in the teams that would lead to surprises and resentments. So that's something I learned from all the elite guys that I worked with so far.
Brilliant. So, to all of those American umpires listening to the interview, do you have any words of encouragement and advice as to how they can get to where you are today? Obviously, not everybody can make it to the US international panel, but for those who are aspiring to, what advice would you give them?
So lots of opportunities, Tom. Again, it's going from point A to point Z. So along that process, try to tick all the boxes. Try to first identify what your strengths and weaknesses are and identify what the game needs at the level you desire to officiate and prepare for that. So if you are umpiring a club game, obviously you would not have a liberty of having a reserve umpire or a TV umpire. So basically your preparation changes for that. Do that as you make good decisions. You are recognized as a good umpire. You're respected as a good umpire by the players and the administrators. These players may move up the ladder, and when you get opportunities at the next level, you will be instantly recognized. You will be instantly respected as an umpire. So you all already the players know you are a good umpire. So it basically helps rather than someone taking shortcuts or someone aiming for a higher level of umpiring right after finishing their certification might not help because you have you didn't have enough of experience on your back to back you up. You might be lacking confidence and stuff like that. Not being negative, but this is what I have observed with some umpires I worked with who did not do all the checklist to come all the way up.
So there's no shortcuts to the top, is what you're saying, Vijay.
Yeah, I mean that's what I always believed in, Tom. My preparation for any tournament, any major tournament starts about 2 weeks before the tournament, and I prepare the same way for an ICC event or major league event or any other event that happens in US. So at the start, the events used to happen on a long weekend. Now they are running into 2 week tournaments.
Mm.
So I mean, basically, the longer the tournament gets, you have to prepare mentally to stay that long in a tournament.
Great stuff. Thanks so much for all of that advice, Vijay. I'm sure there will be candidates on this call who will take it to heart and aim to get to where you have got to and maybe even further. Thank you so much for your time, Vijay. We've got a packed lecture this evening. We are going to allow candidates to type questions into the chat box. And then after Abdullah has presented, I will take candidates through a click-by-click demonstration of how the exam will work, and then we will take any hands up in the meeting room for live questions. So I hope you're able to join us in about an hour and 45 minutes time for those live questions, Vijay. Thank you so much for your time for now, and we will chat to you a little bit later. Enjoy the
Sure.
rest of your morning in Dallas.
Yeah, sure, Tom. Thank you very much for having me on the call. I'll join you back in a 1 hour, 45 minutes from now.
Yes, I will text you when we're about to start our Q&A session.
Yeah. Thank you very much, guys. Have fun.
Great stuff. Abdullah, I have scored a few runs early on. I'm now turning over the strike to you. to take the candidates through a revision lecture with slides that are examined in the Cricket South Africa Level 1 exam. I have just unshared my screen. You may share yours, and over to you. Thanks, Dula.
Thank you so much, Tom. Good evening to you, and good evening to the rest of the attendees. Just give me a second while I'll see my screen. So the slides that I'm going to focus on in tonight's lecture, I call it the revision slides. So many of the exams questions, the answers you will find somewhere in these revision slides. So when you do study for the exam, go through these revision slides in detail together with your law book, and you should do well in your exam. The first law that I'm focusing on is the players. So, and in terms of the number of players, and again, we're focusing on the laws of cricket and in particular, more day cricket. So the law allows for usually for matches to be played between two sides, each of 11 players a side, and one of them to be captain. But by agreement, the law allows for matches to be played with sides of fewer than 11 or even more than 11 players. But the law guides us by telling us that if we do decide to play with more than 11 players, let's say you do have a trial game where there's 15 players per side, at any given time, the max players that's allowed to field these 11 players on the field at any given time. When it comes to the nomination and the replacement of players, each captain to nominate his or her players in writing to one of the umpires before the toss. So that nomination needs to be in writing. And if an umpire do come to, if a captain do come to the toss and tell you, umpire, no, let us do the toss. I'll give you my nomination sheet afterwards. No, you insist. You will do not let the toss take place until you have the nomination sheets of both captains. Are you allowed to change a player after the toss has taken place? Yes, you are allowed, but there's one condition. You need the consent of the opposing captain. So yes, a player can be changed, but you need the consent of the opposing captain. If the captain says yes, you're then allowed to change or replace that player. If the captain say no, you're not allowed to replace that particular player. When it comes to the umpires, and in terms of the appointment and the attendance of the umpires needs to be at the ground according to the law at least 45 minutes before play is about to start. So if our play starts at 10 o'clock, umpires needs to be there latest 9:15. There's lots of duties that the umpires needs to perform. So 9:15 latest, 45 minutes before play is about to start. Are we allowed to change the umpire? Yes, the law allows for the umpire to be changed because sometimes umpire can become injured or ill, or sometimes there are exceptional circumstances that the umpire cannot be at the game. The law allows for the umpire to be changed, but the law tells us that the replacement umpire, so let's say umpire did become injured and that umpire needs now to be replaced, this replacement umpire to only act at the striker's end unless both captains agree that this replacement umpire can take full responsibility of as an umpire. So yes, if an umpire becomes injured, you're allowed to change unless you're allowed to change, and that new umpire only to stand at the striker's end unless both captains agree. And if they both agree, then the new umpire can take full responsibility as an umpire. Who decides whether something is fair or unfair? The umpires, they are the sole judges of whether of fair and unfair play. It's not the captains, it's not the coaches, not team management. The umpires alone, they are the sole judges of fair and unfair play. So when it comes to the fitness of play, again here, solely for the umpires, and they together decide whether conditions of ground, weather, or light or exceptional circumstances means that it would be dangerous or unreasonable for play to take place. So again, umpires alone, they together needs to decide, not the captains, not the coaches, umpires together, and they decide whether conditions of ground, weather or light means that it would be dangerous or unreasonable for play to take place. Suspension of play in dangerous or unreasonable conditions. So if the conditions has become dangerous or unreasonable, the law then tells us that play to be immediately suspended. If play is in progress and umpires do not agree, play to immediately be suspended. I'll use an example to illustrate what the law is trying to tell us. Let's say in our test match, it's late in the day, light is busy starting to fade. It's not getting darker. The umpires look at each other. One umpire feels that I think it's still light enough for play to continue. The other umpire I think it's too dark for play to continue. So if there's no agreement, the law tells us that if there's no agreement, you need to suspend play. You need to take players off the field. You need both umpires to agree for play to continue. If one umpire thinks it's too dark, you need to go off. When it comes to the position of the umpire, the law just guides us, umpires to stand where he or she can best act upon any decision that they need to make. Bowlers in umpire not to stand to interfere with either the bowler's run-up or the striker's view. When it comes to the strikers in umpire, the law wants the strikers in umpire to stand on the leg side of the batter. Yes, there are times where the strikers in umpire may decide to stand on the offside. Examples of this is the late setting sun in the evening. There's lots of fielders around the bat on the leg side. When then it would be for the strikers in umpire would be in a better position to go stand on the offside, to adjudge any runouts or stumpings, etc. So if the strikers in umpire do decide to go stand on the offside, there are three parties the strikers in umpire needs to inform. Now, strikers in umpire needs to inform the captain of the fielding side, needs to inform the striker, and needs to inform the other umpire. So in your exam, this whenever there is a question like when there are three parties that needs to be informed, for the question to be 100% correct, it needs all three names needs to be mentioned. If they only mention one or two names and then there are three names that needs to be mentioned, that statement is then not correct. So for the strikers in umpire to go stand on the offside, three parties needs to be informed. Colleague, the captain of the fielding side, and the striker. So when it comes to the scorers, what do the scorers do? There are three things scorers needs to do. They record all runs scored in the game. They need to record all the wickets taken, and they need to record the number of overs bowled in the game. So these are the three duties that the scorers need to do. Runs scored, wickets taken, number of overs that they bowled. It's important that the scorers needs to sit next to each other. They need to check their scores frequently. If there is a disagreement, they need to find out why their scores don't agree, and they need to acknowledge every single signal of the umpires. There will be times where they are off one ball. There might be 2 or 3 signals. They need to acknowledge those 3 signals separately that they receive from the umpires. When it comes to the ball and a new ball, unless an agreement has been made before the game start, either captain may demand a new ball at the start of each innings. And in modern cricket and in test match cricket as an example, after 80 overs has been bowled, the fielding captain has the option to ask for a new ball. The option is there. Fielding captain does not have to exercise the option. Option is there. The captain feels like to continue with the old ball, the law allows for that. But only after 80 overs, the option of a new ball is only then available. When it comes to the bat, and when it comes to the overall length of the bat, all the law tells us is the overall length of the bat not to be more than 96.52 centimeters. That is the length of the bat, not more than 96.52 centimeters. When it comes to the dimensions of the blade, the width 10.8 centimeters, the depth 6.7, and the edges 4 centimeters. When it comes to the creases, I'm giving you exam tip. The creases and the length of the various or the measurements, they are in the exam. So I'm giving you study your creases and you study your measurements. I'm giving you 10 free points. So when it comes to the creases, there are 3 creases: popping crease, return crease, and the bowling crease. So where my cursor is, that's a popping. These are the 2 return creases, and that's where the bowling crease is. When it comes to the measurement of the creases, I start off by memorizing one measurement, and I can derive other measurements from this one measurement. So what is this measurement? This measurement is the distance from the bowling crease up until the popping crease. And where do you measure from? Look at the arrows. You need to measure from the back edge of the bowling crease to the back edge of the popping crease. And that measurement in meters, or I prefer the metric system. You can use feet in the exam as well. 1.22 meters. So that's your measurement from the back edge of the bowling crease to the back edge of the popping crease. So from this one measurement, I can derive 2 other measurements. And what are those? The measurement of my return crease. That's the first one. So it's a minimum length of your return crease of 2.44 meters. So how can I derive this from the 1.22? If you multiply 1.22 by 2, you get 2.44. So your minimum length of the return crease is 2.44 meters. Usually it's the ground staff just mark it 2.44 meters, but it can technically go right up until the boundary. But they just give us a minimum length. And then the second length I can derive, or second measurement I can derive from 1.22 meters is my popping crease minimum measurement. And this is 3.66, because if you take 1.22 and you multiply it by 3, you get 3.66 meters. And that is your minimum measurement of your return, of your popping crease. So I only memorize the bowling crease, which is the measurement from the bowling to the popping, which is 1.22. If I times it by 2, I get to my minimum length of my return crease, which is 2.44. And then if I times it by 3, I get to 3.66 meters, which is my minimum length of my popping crease. And then the bowling crease is an exact length. It is from the inside edge of your return crease on the one side to the inside edge of the return crease on the other side. And that exact length is 2.64 meters. So go over these measurements, go over the names of your creases. I'm giving you 10 free marks. This is an exam tip. Please look at the arrows in your picture that you're going to get in your exam. Why is the arrows important? Because the arrows guide you on the length of the measurements that they're looking for. I'll give you an example. If you look at the bowling crease, if the arrow shows the tip starting at the one return crease and going to the other end of the other return crease, they want the full length of the bowling crease, which is 2.64 meters. If the arrows go from the middle stump till the end of the return crease, then they're only looking for half the length of the bowling crease, which is 1.32 meters. Similarly, for the other leg, let's say the popping crease, look at your arrows. If it only goes from the middle stump to the one end, they're only looking for half. But if they do, like in this picture where the one arrow is this side and the other arrow is on the total opposite side, now they're looking for the full length of your popping crease, which is 3.66 meters. So that's just an exam tip. Look at the arrows, whether they want the full length or whether they want the only half the length. When it comes to maintenance of the playing area, in particular in the mowing, they tell us the pitch and outfield to be mown on each day, weather conditions permitting. In terms of the timing of the mowing, when it comes to the pitch needs to be mowed, or the mowing needs to be done of the pitch 9:30 by 30 minutes before play is about to start. So let's say in our test match, game starts at 10 o'clock. Mowing of the pitch needs to be done by 9:30. So yes, they can 9:20, they can mow the pitch 9:50, no issue. 9 o'clock, no issue. All the law tells us is needs to be done 30 minutes before play is about to start. So if in our game 10 o'clock, mowing of the pitch needs to be done by 9:30, 30 minutes before play is about to start. When it comes to mowing of the outfield, 15 minutes before play is about to start. So if play starts at 10 o'clock, mowing of the outfield needs to be done by 9:45. When it comes to rolling of the pitch, and in particular the frequency and the duration, how long? Not more than 7 minutes. So can a batting captain roll for 5 minutes? Yes, the batting captain can. Can the batting captain roll for 6 minutes? Yes. 2 minutes? Yes. 30 seconds? Yes. All the law tell us not more than 7 minutes. If the batting captain asks you 8 minutes, you say, no, captain, unfortunately, I can only roll for a maximum of 7 minutes. And this is the batting captain at the time. So now we know how long they can roll. So now, and remember, this is rolling after the match has started. Before the game started, the curator can roll to his or her heart's content. But after the match has started, rolling, maximum time for rolling, 7 minutes. And there's only 2 instances when rolling can take place once the game has started. The first instance is before the start of each innings, other than the first innings. So day 1 of our test match, South Africa batting first. India dismissed them for, let's say, 300. So before the start of India's first innings, batting captain has the option of rolling for not more than 7 minutes. If India gets dismissed in their first innings, before South Africa go bat in their second innings, the South African captain then has the option of rolling not more than 7 minutes in their second innings. Similarly, once the South African second innings is completed, if India now go bat in their second innings, they will then have the option to have rolling for not more than 7 minutes before the start of their second innings. So that's the first instance. The second instance of rolling after the game has started is before the start of each subsequent day's play. Not the first day, but before the start of day 2, rolling to take place. Day 3, day 4, and day 5. When it comes to the rolling, batting captain have the option of rolling, does not have to exercise the option. The option is there. Usually at international grounds and provincial grounds, you'll find 2 or 3 rollers available. You will give the option to the at the time batting captain whether they want rolling and which roller they want. I mentioned earlier, rolling to take place before the start of each innings. So there will be once a side is dismissed, there'll be a 10-minute change of innings, and that's where the rolling will take place in that 10-minute change of innings interval. When it comes to rolling before the start of each subsequent day's play, there's a window period for that rolling to take place. There's a 20-minute window period. If the game starts at 10 o'clock, that 20-minute window period is from 9:30 up until 9:50. So the earliest you can roll on day 2, 3, or 4, or 5 is 9:30, and the latest you can delay that rolling is 9:50. When it comes to your intervals, there are scheduled intervals. These are intervals that was decided before the game start. Examples of those scheduled intervals are period between close of play on one day and the start of the next day's play. Interval between innings, that's a scheduled interval. Your interval for meals, i.e. your lunch and your tea interval, scheduled intervals. Your interval for your drinks, scheduled interval. And any other agreed interval, also a scheduled interval. When it comes to the duration of your intervals, usually the governing body of cricket for that particular competition, they decide how long your interval should be. So for Test match cricket, the International Cricket Council, they're the governing body of Test match cricket, and they decided that the length of your tea interval is 20 minutes, your lunch interval 40, and your drinks interval is 4 minutes. So all the law tells us is, so when it comes to whatever your duration of your interval is, let's use lunch or tea as an example. So our lunch is 40. So if your duration is 40, that 40 minutes to start from the call of time before the interval and until the call of play on the resumption of your interval. So just an example, if your lunch time starts at 12 o'clock, and you call over time and lunch at 12, the first ball after lunch needs to be bowled at 12:40. 99% of the time you don't in on exactly 12. So most of the time you'll probably get mid over or 2, 3 balls, 4 balls bowled. You need to complete the over before you can take your lunch. So let's say our over ends at 12:02. You then at 12:02, the final legal ball gets bowled. You call over time and lunch. When must the first ball after lunch be bowled? Exactly 40 minutes later, which is 12:42. According to the law, interval between innings is 10 minutes. Many years ago, the law was quite strict or fixed. Your tea time is your tea time, your lunch time is your lunch time, lunch is at 12. No matter what happens, there's no flexibility when it came to your lunch, your tea, or intervals. But over the years, the lawmakers saw they need to build in some flexibility into the scheduled intervals for us to have more cricket, to maximize playing time, to get more cricket during a day. And we're going to go through a few examples of how the lawmakers maximized the playing time. So when it came to the interval between innings, they decided that if an innings ends 10 minutes or less before the close of play time, that will be stumps for that day. And if the minutes that you ended earlier, you will not make it up the next day. Example, let's say our close of play is at 5 o'clock. At 16:52, South Africa gets dismissed. So now 5 o'clock is our cut-off time, but it's now 16:52, 8 minutes still to go till 5. So now the law tells us if an innings ends 10 minutes or less before the close of play, it will be end of day's play. It will be stumps. In our example, 16:52, it's less than 10 minutes to go to the close of play. So it will be stumps. Yes, we ended 8 minutes earlier, but we will not start 8 minutes earlier the following day. Again, when it comes to flexibility that the lawmakers brought into the tea time, where they allow now the tea time to be a bit more flexible, one of those changes was if an innings ends 30 minutes or less before the agreed time for tea, you'll take your tea immediately. You'll then incorporate your change of innings interval into your tea time. So let's say our tea time is at 3 o'clock. At 14:35, India gets dismissed. What happens next? You'll take an early tea. Why? Because this innings ends 30 minutes or less before the agreed time for tea. So 14:35, we'll take tea. We know our tea time is 20 minutes. So our tea time will be from 14:35. First ball after tea needs to be bowled at 14:55, and we will include our change of innings interval into the tea time. Another flexibility that they brought into our tea time is when 30 minutes remain before the agreed time for tea, an interval is already in progress. They're just guiding us by telling us that if an innings with our tea time at 3 o'clock, and let's say India gets bowled out at 14:25, can we take an early tea? We just saw in point number 1, an innings must end 30 minutes or less until tea to take an early tea. Now, in this example, India was dismissed at 14:25. This is now 35 minutes to tea. So we cannot activate clause number 1, point 1 here, because it's not 30 minutes till tea. It's 35 minutes to go to tea. So now what we now need to do is, now there need to be a 10-minute change of innings. So our change of innings will be from 14:25 till 14:35, and we will play for 25 minutes from 14:35 till 3 o'clock, and we'll take tea at 3 o'clock. Again, flexibility that the lawmakers brought into when it comes to your lunch or your tea interval, and this was brought in to maximize, playing time. When a side is 9 wickets down, and its side must be 9 wickets down to activate this particular clause, must be 9 wickets down. So our tea, let's use tea as an example, but the same principle applies to our lunch interval. So we get to 3 o'clock, and South Africa is 200 for the loss of 9 wickets. You look at your watch, the final ball gets bowled, you see it's 3 o'clock. Do you take tea? No. The lawmakers tell us you shall not in this instance take tea. Why? Because when a side is 9 wickets down, and South Africa is 9 wickets down, you will play for a further maximum of 30 minutes. Max of 30 minutes, or unless the fielding side takes the 10th wicket earlier. So just 2 examples to illustrate how the law works. So at 3 o'clock, South Africa is 9 down. You will give the third fielding side half an hour maximum to see if they can take the 10th wicket. Let's say they take the 10th wicket at 10 past 3. You will then take tea immediately. Tea will be from 10 past. First ball needs to be bowled at 15:30. You'll incorporate the change of innings interval into your tea interval. Another example, you get to 3 o'clock, South Africa's 9 down. You now know we cannot take tea because we need to continue playing. We continue playing, but we get to 3:30, and the fielding side did not take the 10th wicket. You can only allow a max of half an hour for the fielding side to take the wicket. If they can't take the wicket in the max of half an hour, you will now take tea at 15:30. Tea will then be from 15:30 till 15:50. When it comes to your interval for drinks, all the law tells us is drinks interval not to exceed 5 minutes. In Test match cricket, drinks is 4 minutes, which falls within the law. All the law tells us not to exceed 5 minutes. And again, point 2 is that flexibility that they brought into the law, and this is now when it comes to the drinks interval to save some time. So if a wicket falls or a batter retires within 5 minutes of the drinks interval, you'll then take the drinks interval immediately. Let's say our drinks interval as it is at 11 o'clock. At 10:56, a wicket falls. What will you do? You'll take drinks because this is a wicket fell within 5 minutes to drinks. Because it's within 5 minutes, you'll take drinks from 10:56 till 11 o'clock. When it comes to the completion of the over, the law wants the over to be completed. If the agreed time for the interval is reached during an over, you need to complete the over. You cannot get to our lunch is at 12 o'clock. You look at your watch, you see it's 12 o'clock. You've only bowled 4 balls in the over. You cannot now say, we've reached 12 o'clock, we'll take lunch. No, the law wants you to complete the over. You need to bowl that further 2 balls, then you take lunch. There is an exception. And what is that exception? If there's less than 3 minutes to go to your interval, and either a batter is dismissed or retires or players needs to leave the field, and this happens during the over, then you will take lunchtime. I'll give you an example. Our lunch is at 12 o'clock. At 11:58, a batter gets dismissed. Because this is less than 3 minutes to go to your lunch interval, you will now take lunchtime immediately. 11:58, the wicket fell, so lunch will be from 11:58. The first ball after lunch needs to be bowled 40 minutes later, which is 12:38. When it comes to the innings and in reference to the toss, who needs to be at the toss? Both captains needs to be present at the toss. Who else needs to be there? At least one of the umpires, preferably both umpires, but at least one. But we need both captains and at least one umpire. Where does it need to take place? Anywhere on the field of play. Yes, traditionally or customarily, the toss takes place next to the match pitch, but it can take place anywhere on the field of play. When does the toss take place? There's a window period. It's a 15-minute window period for the toss to take place. If our game starts at 10 o'clock, that 15-minute window period is from 9:30 to between 9:30 and 9:45. So anytime between then, the toss to take place. And as soon as the toss is completed, whoever the captain winning the toss needs to notify the opposing captain of whether they're going to bat or field. That decision needs to be done immediately. Captain winning the toss cannot tell you, umpire, I quickly want to go speak to the coach. I'll get back to you in 2-3 minutes. No. Need to notify the opposing captain and umpires immediately. And once notified, that decision then cannot change afterwards. When it comes to the follow-on, and in terms of the lead on the first innings, in a 2 innings match of 5 days or more, example our test match, if a side that batted first and they lead the other side by at least 200 runs, the captain of that side will have the option of asking the other side to follow on. The option is there. Captain of the field, the captain does not have to exercise the option, but the option is there. So in a 5-day match, in our test match as an example, the lead needs to be at least 200. If it is, the captain has the option to exercise the follow-on. Not all matches spans over 5 days. Like in South Africa, we do have a 4-day provincial competition. We also have a 3-day provincial Colts competition. So the law do cater for games that's less than 5 days. So in a match, that's 3 or 4 days. When it comes to the follow-on, the lead needs to be at least 150. When it comes to a 2-day match, the lead needs to be 100 runs. When it comes to a 1-day game, the lead needs to be 75 runs. Again, also, when it comes to if the captain is going to exercise the option by asking the other side to follow on, that captain needs to let the opposing captain know that yes, I am exercising my option to let you follow on. Or I'm going to ask you to follow on, or no, I'm not going to ask you to follow on. And once that decision has been made, whether it's to for you to the other side to follow on, or whether not to follow on, once that decision's been made, it then cannot be changed. When it comes to the first day's play that is lost, if you lose your first day, play was not called on the first day. Not a single ball was bowled on the first day. There was nothing happened on the first day. But it must be the first day that is lost. If the first day is lost, play was not called on the first day, then when it comes to the follow-on lead, it then is accordance with the number of the remaining days left in the game. I'll use an example to illustrate my point. Test match is an example. Our test match that spans over 5 days. Play was not called on day number 1. It rained the whole day. No play. Day we get to the ground at day number 2, sunshine, we can start on time at 10 o'clock. So this is now in effect a 4-day test match. Because no play took place on the first day of our test match, now the follow-on lead needs to be according to the 3 or 4 day lead. And what is that? We did it in the previous slide, 150 runs. Even though it was a 5-day test match when we started, and where the lead needed to be 200, at least 200 runs, but because no play took place on the first day of our match, it will now be a 4-day match, and we now need to look at the lead needs to be 150 runs. But I will need to emphasize it. This will only be effective if no play takes place on the first day of the match. If play starts on time in our test match, we get a full day in day 1, and the whole of day 2 rains out, and we only start on day 3 again. You cannot activate this clause, because this clause can only be, point 3 can only be activated if there's no place on the first day. In my last example, it was day 2 that rained out. Day 1, we started on time. We played the whole of day 1. This clause only gets activated if the first day is lost. When it comes to the declaration and forfeiture, in terms of the timing of the declaration, which captain can declare the innings? It's only the batting captain that can declare an innings closed, and he or she needs to wait for the ball to be dead. So as soon as the ball is dead, the batting captain may declare the innings closed. When it comes to a forfeit of an innings, captain may forfeit either of his or side's innings at any time before the commencement of that particular innings, and a forfeited innings to be considered as a completed innings. And again, as soon as the captain notified the umpires and the opposing captain of the decision to declare or to forfeit, once that decision has been made, cannot be changed afterwards. In terms of the over, the number of balls, 6 balls, 6 valid balls in each over, and they need to be bowled from each alternate ends. When do your over start? Over starts as soon as the bowler starts his or her run up. As soon as the bowler takes his or her first step, that is when the over technically starts. That is when that ball becomes alive. If the bowler doesn't have a run up, as soon as the back foot lands, that's when the over starts. When it comes to the boundary and identifying and the marking of the boundary, where possible, the law wants the boundary to be marked by a continuous white line or by an object in contact with the ground. So can either be draw a white line or use a rope or Toblerone, or white line and a rope. That's what the law wants us to do. And then they guide us further by telling us that If the boundary is marked by a white line, the edge of the line nearest to the pitch, that shall be the boundary. Edge nearest to the pitch. We'll see in the next slide, and when we look at the arrow, what I mean by nearest to the pitch. If we do use an object such as flags or posts or boards or bricks or cones, whatever the case may be, these are just to highlight the position of the line marked on the ground, and these flags, posts, or boards needs to be placed beyond the boundary. So when it comes to if there is a line where the arrow is pointing, that inside edge, the nearest line, that is your boundary. Fence, similarly to a fence, the inside edge of the fence, that is where the boundary is. Similarly, rope, post, and flags. Dead ball. There are 8 instances where the ball automatically becomes dead, and there are 14 where the umpire needs to call and signal dead ball. When it comes to when the ball automatically becomes dead, when the ball finally settles in the hands of the wicket keeper or of the bowler, the ball automatically becomes dead. When a boundary is scored, when a batter is dismissed, ball automatically becomes dead. Played, whether played or not, becomes trapped between the bat and person, ball automatically becomes dead. Those are just 4 instances where the ball automatically becomes dead. When it comes to no balls, in particularly the feet, there are 2 feet. The law sees the back foot and the front foot differently. When it comes to the back foot, the crease that goes with the back foot is the return crease, and the law wants the back foot to land within and not touch the return crease. So when it comes to the back foot, you only look at the return crease. Is the back foot touching the return crease? Yes or no? If no, fair delivery. If yes, no ball. When it comes to the front foot, the crease that goes with the front foot is the popping crease. So here the law wants the bowler's front foot to land with some part of the foot, whether grounded or raised, behind the back edge of the popping crease, or on the same side of the imaginary line joining the 2 middle stumps. Let's go through a few pics just to illustrate how the law works. Let's start with the front foot, and the question you need to ask yourself, what crease goes with the front foot? The popping crease. This is a right-handed bowler bowling over the wicket. So is there any part of the front foot whether grounded or raised behind the back edge of the popping crease? Yes, there is. So we're happy with the front foot. Back foot. Is there any part of the back foot touching the return crease? Yes. That's why this is a no ball. Front foot. Any part of the front foot whether grounded or raised behind the back edge of the popping crease? Yes. The whole foot is behind, so we're happy with the front foot. Back foot. Any part of the back foot touching the return crease? No, it's not, so we're happy with the back foot. So this is a fair delivery. Front foot. Any part of the front foot, whether grounded or raised behind the back edge of the popping crease? Yes, there's a big part of the front foot behind the back edge of the popping crease. So we're happy with the front foot. The back foot. Any part of the back foot touching the return crease? No, so we're happy with the back foot. That's why this is a fair delivery. Let's start with the front foot again, and this is, if you can visualize this is a left-arm bowler bowling around the wicket. Front foot. Any part of the front foot, whether grounded or raised behind the back edge of the popping crease? Yes, so we're happy with the front foot. Back foot. Any part of the back foot touching the return crease? Yes, the back foot is touching the return crease. That's why this is a no ball. Back foot not touching the return crease, so we're happy with the back foot. Front foot. Is there any part of the front foot, whether grounded or raised behind the back edge of the popping crease? Yes, there is a portion behind the back edge of the popping crease. That's why this is a fair delivery. Back foot, we're happy, it's not touching the return crease. Front foot. Is there any part of the front foot whether grounded or raised behind the back edge of the popping crease? No, there's no portion behind the back edge of the popping crease. That's why this is a no ball. Back foot, not touching the return crease, so we're happy. Front foot. Any part of the front foot with the grounder to raise behind the back edge of the popping crease. No, that's why this is a no ball. I just want to point out an important thing that you need to take into account is first landing of the foot. You need to take into account first landing and not where the foot ends up. If this, looking at this pic, if this was first landing and there's no part of the foot behind the back edge of the uh, popping crease, that's why this should be a no ball. You need to look at first landing and not where the foot ends up. Sometimes you find bowlers, they'll land behind the popping crease, but their foot slides, and because of the sliding of the foot, they end up over the popping crease. Don't look at where the foot ends up. If this was the first landing and the foot ends up here, this would be a fair delivery, because on first landing, that's where you need to judge it. And first landing, there was a portion of the foot behind the back edge of the popping crease, the front foot I'm referring to. That's why this is a fair delivery. You look at where the foot first lands and not if it, let's say, ends up here, and not where it ends up. Back foot, not touching the return crease, we're happy. Front foot, is there any part of the front foot with a grounded or raised behind the back edge of the popping crease? Yes, there is a portion. That's why this is a fair delivery. Back foot, not touching the return crease, we're happy. Back foot is okay. Front foot, any part of the front foot with a grounded or raised behind the back edge of the popping crease? No, there's not. That's why this is a no ball. When it comes to ball bouncing more than once or rolling around along the ground, and the emphasis here is on a ball bouncing more than once. The law does not want a ball to bounce more than once before reaching the popping crease. So if it bounces a second time before reaching the popping crease, either umpire to call it and signal no ball, although the bowlers, the strikers in umpire is in the best position to call this, because the strikers in umpire has got a side-on view and can much easier see whether the ball bounced a second time before reaching the popping crease. So what I want to emphasize is ball should not bounce more than once. If it bounces more than once before reaching the popping crease, or it starts rolling along the ground before reaching the popping crease, you need to call and signal no ball. Or if the ball pitches wholly or partially off the pitch before reaching the striker's wicket, you need to call and signal no ball. When it comes to wide ball and the calling and signaling of the wide, the law wants you to only call and signal wide as soon as the ball passes the striker's wicket. Don't be in a hurry to call wide. Delay that call. Wait till the ball passes the striker's wicket. Only once it's past the striker's wicket and it didn't touch the bat or person of the striker, you then need to call and signal wide. But technically, according to the law, even though your call, or you need to delay your call until it passes the striker's wicket, now you only call and signal wide. But technically, according to the law, it's considered wide from the instant that the bowler enters his or her delivery stride, i.e., as soon as that back foot lands. That is where the law, that is where, according to the law, the ball is being considered wide already. For many years, I actually thought is when the bowler released the ball. No, it's not when the bowler released the ball. It is when that back foot lands. When the bowler, i.e., when the bowler enters his or her delivery stride, that is technically, according to the law, when it's wide already. Although when it comes to the calling of wide, you delay it until the bowler, until it passes the striker's wicket. Wide, not to count as one of the valid balls of the over. How can you be dismissed of a wide? There are 4 ways to be dismissed of a wide, and only these 4 ways. What are they? Hit wicket is one, obstructing the field is one, run out is one, and stumped is one. These are the only 4 mode of dismissals how you can be dismissed of a wide. When it comes to substitutes and fielder's absence, they start with substitute. When do you allow a substitute? The umpires to allow a substitute, 2 instances. If the umpires are satisfied that a fielder became injured or ill, and this injury or illness occurred during this game. If that is the case, you'll allow a substitute fielder. You'll also allow a substitute fielder for any wholly acceptable reasons. Comfort breaks, substitute not to be allowed. You've now allowed a substitute. There's certain restriction on the substitute. The law tells us substitute cannot bat, cannot bowl, cannot be captain. But the law allows the substitute to be a wicket keeper. But there's a condition, and what is that condition? Need the consent of the 2 umpires. When it comes to a fielder absent or leaving the field of play, what do? The lawmakers tightened this law because players abused this law many years ago. They would fake injuries and just go off and to get their feet up. Fielders and batters would do the same thing. I mean, I did this many years ago, so I'm a bit shy to say I also abused this law. But this was back in the day. But the lawmakers has now tightened this law. So what did they do? If a player comes to you informing you that yes, I am injured, the player then needs to inform you what the injury is. Let's say it is hamstring. You take out your notebook, you write down the player's name, you write down the reason for why the player is going off. You write down, let's say, Cindy, hamstring, and you need to write down the time that Cindy went off. We'll now see the importance of why you need to write down this time. Then you need to tell Cindy, when you come back, please let me know when you come back. And we'll see now the importance of why it's important to know when she came back. So firstly, before coming back from after getting treatment, Cindy needs the permission of the umpires to come back onto the field. The umpires needs to know when you're coming back. So now let's say Cindy's now fit to come back. Cindy now comes back. Cindy needs you then take out your notebook. And you need to write Cindy's now back, but importantly, you need to write down the time that Cindy's back. And we're going to see now in point 3 the importance of why you need to write down the time. So in point 1, you wrote down the time Cindy went off. Let's use example 10:30. At 10:50, Cindy informs you that I'm fit now again. Can I come back on? You give Cindy permission. You say, yes, Cindy, come back on. You write down 10:50. So now this is where point number 3 comes in. Before Cindy can bowl again, Cindy needs to be the same amount of time that Cindy was off the field, on the field, before she can bowl again. This is known as penalty time in the law. I'll use an example to illustrate point number 3. Cindy went off at 10:30. Cindy came back at 10:50. So how long was Cindy off? 20 minutes. When can Cindy bowl again? She needs to be on the field for 20 minutes before she can bowl. So if she came back at 10:50, if you add 20 minutes to it, she can then bowl at 11:10, 20 minutes later. There's a max penalty time of 90 minutes. If a player was off for 4 hours, you're not going to let the player wait for 4 hours before he or she can bowl again. There's a max of 90. Even though they were off for 4 hours, there's a max penalty time of 90 minutes only. If a player leaves the field before having served all his or her penalty time, the balance is carried forward as unserved penalty time. Lots of players think penalty time disappears. They think in the next innings, the first innings is now done, it's now second innings, now penalty time disappears. No, it doesn't disappear. Next day, lots of bowlers think penalty time disappears the next day. You'll often find bowlers, they'll 5 o'clock is cut-off time. They'll go off at 4 o'clock, thinking, I'll go off at 4. I'll go put my feet up. Next morning, play starts at 10 o'clock. I can bowl immediately. No, it's not the case. If they go off at 4 and play stops at 5, the next morning play starts at 10, that bowler needs to wait 60 minutes before he or she can bowl. They need to serve that 60-minute penalty time. It doesn't disappear. It gets carried forward into the next day. Also, you'll sometimes find players going off multiple times. If the player hasn't served up all the penalty time, you just add it every time. All those unserved penalty time gets added. Importantly, scheduled intervals, like your lunch or your tea interval, does not get added to does not add to unserved penalty time, nor does it count as penalty time served. Example: our lunch is at 12 o'clock. At 11:40, Cindy goes off. So 11:40 till 12 o'clock. We took lunch at 12 o'clock. So Cindy was off for 40 minutes. So for 20 minutes. The definition of penalty time is time while play is in progress that the player is not on the field of play. So Cindy was off the field for 20 minutes while play was in progress. Now our lunchtime is from 12 till 12:40. At 12:40, when players return to the field, Cindy joins her side to come back onto the field. So how much penalty time does Cindy owe us? Cindy only owes us 20 minutes. She was only off for 20 minutes of playing time. That 40 minutes lunch interval, you don't add it to Cindy's penalty time, or you don't subtract it from Cindy's penalty time. There was no play during the lunch, so you don't take it into account. I mentioned earlier about unserved penalty time getting carried into subsequent days and into subsequent innings. You need to do it. Lots of players don't know this. They think it disappears. Uh, you won't carry any unserved penalty time into the next match. Yeah, but if while this match is still in progress, it doesn't disappear. You will carry it forward into the next day or next match. When it comes to penalty time not incurred, yes, players abuse this law, but the lawmakers also realize that there are times where penalty time to not be incurred, and one of those instances, if a player suffered an external blow during the match and then had to leave the field of play. But it must be an external blow, and it needs to happen on the field of on the field of play while play is in progress. So an example, your short leg fielder, spinner bowls a short ball, the bowler pulls the ball into the sin of the short leg fielder. Ball went against the sin. Just an example of an external blow, ball going against the sin. The player then left the field for, let's say, half an hour to get treatment. Because of this external blow that happened, no penalty time to be incurred. That player returning half an hour later can bowl immediately. But it needs to be an external blow. So either ball against body. It doesn't have to be always the ball. It can be two players running into each other on the field of play while play is in progress. Another example of external blow happen in front of you. Two players colliding. Player then needs to leave the field. If they do go off and come back on an hour later, they don't need to serve any penalty time. Also, no penalty time needs to be served if the player has been off for a wholly acceptable reason. When it comes to appeals and the timings of the appeal to be valid, it needs to be made before the bowler begins his or her run up to start the next ball. So there's quite a lengthy window period from when the bowler delivers the ball up until the window period only closes when the bowler takes his or her first step to bowl the next delivery, or unless time has been called. If time has been called, that closes the window period. Even the call of over doesn't invalidate an appeal, as long as it's made before the start of the next over, i.e., before the bowler takes his or her first step to bowl the next over. Appeal of house that covers all ways of being out. You don't need to name what you're appealing for. You can just say, how's that? Or, as long as you appeal, you don't need to say, how's that umpire for LBW? How's that is good enough. Covers all ways of being out. When it comes to the court law, let's look at a video.
Fair catch. A catch shall be considered fair if the ball is held in a fielder's hand, hugged to the body of the catcher, or accidentally lodges in his or her clothing, helmet, or protective equipment. But of course, this being cricket, it isn't always that simple. If a fielder deliberately uses an item of clothing to try to catch the ball, it is not out, and 5 penalty runs are awarded to the batting side. However, the ball can be caught after it has deflected off the other batsman, an umpire, another fielder, including off a helmet being worn, or even if it lodges in a fielder's helmet. Perhaps the main criterion for a catch to be considered fair is that the ball must not touch the ground before being caught. Here, for example, the ball does not touch the ground even though the hand holding it does so in effecting the catch. This is a fair catch. And then there is the question of catches near the boundary. This is such an interesting subject that we've given it a film all of its own. To catch up on everything to do with catching, simply refer to Law 33 in the Blue Book.
If a striker is dismissed court, no runs to be scored. Even if they run 3 while that ball is in the air and the catch gets taken, no runs to be scored. When we did the dismissal laws, we said bowled is boss, bowled is always number 1. Who's number 2? Court. So if there's more than one mode of dismissal and bowled is not one of them and one is court, court is number 2. LBW. Let's look at a video.
Leg before wicket. LBW. LBW is a little like the offside rule in football. Many people claim to know it, but how many people really do? Our handy checklist means that whether you find yourself umpiring an international test match or the kids on the beach, your reputation for fairness will remain intact. There are 5 basic criteria to consider. The batsman is out, leg before wicket, if 1. The bowler bowls a ball that isn't a no ball, unlike this poor fellow. 2. The ball, if it is not intercepted on the full, pitches in line between wicket and wicket or on the off side of the batsman's wicket. It cannot be out if the ball pitches outside the line of the leg stump. 3. The ball hits the batsman either full pitch or after pitching and before he hits it with his bat. 4. This is where it gets a bit more complicated. If the batsman was making a genuine attempt to play the ball, the point of impact must be between wicket and wicket for LBW to be an option. However, if the batsman has made no genuine attempt to play the ball, the contact must either be between wicket and wicket or outside the line of the off stump. 5. This is the crucial part. But for the interception by the batsman, the ball would have gone on to hit the stumps and dislodge the bails. Any questions? Just refer to Law 36 in the Blue Book.
So just quickly go through those points that you need to consider when there is an LBW appeal. Ball not to be a no ball. If not intercepted on the full, it needs to pitch in line between wicket and wicket or on the offside of the wicket. That's why if it pitches outside leg, it can never be out. Should not have touched the bat first. If it touched the bat first, not out LBW. If you touch the pad first, then the bat, then you can consider the LBW appeal. But there's other things that you still need to consider, which we're going to see now. The striker intercepted the ball with any part of his or her person. Doesn't have to be the leg, even though it is leg before wicket, but it can be any part of his or her person. When it comes to the point of impact, it needs to be between wicket and wicket, unless the striker didn't genuinely attempt to play with at the ball with his or her bat, then the impact can either be between wicket or on the offside of the wicket. And then lastly, it needs to have gone on to hit the wicket. After considering these 6 bullet points, and usually if there's an appeal, you take a split second for you to consider these points. And if you're in the affirmative of all these points, especially the last one, it would have gone on to hit the wicket, you can give the striker out LBW. Let's go through a few picks. This is the right-hand batter. Let's go through our checklist. Where did the ball, and let's assume it's not a no ball, and it didn't touch the bat. So where did this ball pitch? Did it pitch between wicket and wicket or on the offside of the wicket? No, it pitched on the leg side. That's why outside leg can never be out. Did it pitch between wicket and wicket or on the offside of the wicket? Yes, it pitched between wicket and wicket. Where was the impact? Was the impact between wicket and wicket? Yes, the impact was between wicket and wicket. That's why you can consider this. If in your opinion this would have gone on to hit the stumps, give the batter out LBW. Where did the ball pitch? Did it pitch between wicket and wicket or on the offside? It pitched on the offside. Where was the impact? Was the impact between wicket and wicket? No, the impact was not between wicket and wicket. The impact was outside off stump, or the impact was outside the line. Because the batter played a stroke, this can never be out. Impact outside the line. Where did it pitch? Outside off. Where was the impact? Outside off. But there was that condition where if there's no shot, a genuine attempt to play at the ball, you can still consider the LBW appeal. So the next thing that you need to consider is, would this have gone on to hit the stumps? If your answer to that question is yes, you give this out LBW. If the answer to the question is no, I don't think this ball would have gone on to hit the stumps, not out LB. Pitch in line, impact is in line. You then need to decide whether this is going to on to hit the stumps. If yes, give out LBW. Where did the ball pitch? It pitched between wicket and wicket. Where was the impact? Yes, it was between wicket and wicket. Would it have gone on to hit the stumps? For me, this is a left-arm bowler bowling over the wicket. And if you look at where it pitched, where it hit, the stride that the batter got in, I think this is missing off stump. Just the angle it's taking it across the batter. So I think it's missing off. Where did it pitch? Pitch outside off. Where was the impact? Impact was in line. Would it have gone on to hit the wicket? I don't think it would have gone on to hit the wicket. If you see where it pitched, the amount of deviation off the pitch, batter playing forward, there's still lots of travelling distance. I think this is going on to miss leg stump. Pitch outside off. Where was the impact? Yes, the impact was between wicket and wicket. Would it have gone on to hit the stumps? I don't think so, because look there. If you can see, it hits quite high on the flap. I think this is going over. Stumped. Let's look at a video.
Stumped. All batsmen fear being stumped, and all wicket-keepers dream of stumping batsmen. So let's be clear about the law. The only player who can stump a batsman is this fellow, the wicket-keeper. A stumping can take place provided that the ball is not a no ball. You can be stumped off a wide, however. Here, for example, the batsman has moved out of his or her ground to play the ball, but has missed it and has not attempted a run. The wicket is fairly put down by the wicketkeeper without the intervention of another fielder. When all these conditions are met, the batsman will find that he or she has indeed been stumped. It's also okay for the ball to rebound onto the stumps off any part of the wicketkeeper, including his or her protective equipment or helmet. If it is a no ball, the batsman will not be out-stumped and is also protected from being run out as long as he or she is not attempting a run. Don't be stumped about stumping. Get a copy of the Blue Book and study Law 39.
Tom, my last slide that I'm covering for this evening in my revision lecture is the timeout law. So after the fall of a wicket or the retirement of a batter, incoming batter needs to be ready to receive the next ball, or the other batter needs to be ready within 3 minutes of the dismissal or the retirement. If this requirement is not met, incoming batter on appeal to be given out, timed out. Thank you so much, Tom. I'm now handing back over to you.
Thanks very much, Abdullah. We are rolling on with the last lecture of our level 1 course. We are now at the point where the content has been delivered in terms of the laws that you need to learn for the exam. Thank you very much to Abdullah for taking us through the revision lectures. There we are, as per the slide on display, highlighted in green. The law revision has been done. Now I'm going to take you through an online click-by-click demonstration of how to register for the exam, how to add your account or at least approve your account, and then how to start the exam. As mentioned, the exam is completely online, and even though the lectures have been free, there is an exam fee that applies for everyone who wishes to take part in the Cricket South Africa Level 1 umpiring exam. It is $30 for anyone outside of South Africa, payable by PayPal. On all the emails that I've been sending you, you will see the link to click on and simply add the amount of $30 to the amount required to pay on PayPal. If you do not have a PayPal account, you need to sign up for a PayPal account. It's very straightforward. It takes about 5 minutes. You need a credit card or a debit card with a chip. Enter all your details and you will have a PayPal account up and running in no time. If you do not have and you are unable to create a PayPal account, I would suggest you ask a friend or a family member or a colleague to pay on your behalf using their PayPal account. For South Africans, we have a standard bank account which you need to send an electronic funds transfer amount of 300 rands, and those proofs of payments all need to be sent to training@wpcua.co.za. Whether you're paying via PayPal, whether you're paying via EFT, you need to send your proof of payment to training@wpcua.co.za. And please don't make it an automated proof of payment from the bank to that email address. I need the email address that needs to be registered for the exam to send the proof of payment to training at wpcua.co.za. So, for example, if Abdullah is registering for the exam, he's going to make a payment on his online banking account, and the proof of payment is going to be sent to his email address. And then from his email address, he's going to forward the proof of payment to training@wpcua.co.za. If I get a proof of payment from the bank saying that John Smith has paid, I do not know John Smith's email address, and I would not know which email address to send John Smith's exam link email on Monday morning. So please do send your proof of payments from your email address. You have up until Sunday, the 20th of October to send the proof of payments at 6 p.m. South African time. Once Sunday night cutoff reaches, I will have a list of email addresses that I will then generate on Monday morning the exam link email. What I will do starting from tonight, every night at 9 p.m. South African time, I will send an email to all of you to acknowledge everyone who has paid for the exam. So I will list email addresses and say these are the email addresses currently which will be receiving exam link emails on Monday morning. Just to make sure that everybody who has paid, I have received the proof of payment and I have added to the paid list so that they are receiving the exam link email next week, Monday. So thank you to all of those that have already paid. You will be on the list tonight. Those of you who haven't yet, the email that I sent this afternoon for the reminder of today's lecture, there are payment details on that email and every other email that I've been sending throughout the course. So Monday morning, 8 a.m. South African time, you will all of you who have paid for the exam receive an exam link email, and you will be able to see what that looks like shortly when I get into the process of how to register and start writing the exam. The exam window period is for 10 days. So from 8 a.m. on Monday, the 21st of October to 7:59 a.m. on Thursday, the 31st of October. You will have up to 5 attempts in those 10 days to achieve 80% for the exam, which is the pass mark. And please note that if you pass on your first attempt or your second attempt or your third attempt or your fourth attempt, you will not get any further attempts to try and improve your mark. Once you've passed, a certificate will be generated and will be automatically emailed by Umpires Universe, the website that the exam is based on. They will send your certificates to training@wpcua.co.za. And I will, as soon as I can, forward that certificate to you. When I forward your certificate to you, I will ask you where in the cricketing world you are based, because at the end of the window period, I will be sending out an email to all the passers to help them register with the Umpires Association closest to them in the world. So if you are in Karachi in Pakistan, we will get you the contact of the Umpires Association based in Karachi in Pakistan, and you will be able to forward your certificate from Cricket South Africa Level 1 umpiring certification to that Umpires Association closest to you and ask them kindly to accept you as a member of their association for you to start umpiring in that association. So please, when you receive your certificate from me, if you are interested in joining an umpires association, let me know which city, which province, and which country you are in. Another word for province is state in different countries. The exam is all true or false or multiple choice questions. There are 69 of them. Be aware that you need 56 correct answers to achieve the pass mark of 80%. And once you submit your answers at the end of the exam, your result will be displayed immediately on screen, so you will know there and then if you have passed or not. If you have got less than 80%, and I have to let you know that 55 out of 69 is 77.8%, I think, or sorry, 79.8%. It is not unfortunately rounded up. That will require you to attempt the exam again. What we often find is that people are very flustered and their brain is frazzled after attempting the exam. It is not a good idea to attempt the same exam again straight after having failed it on the previous attempt. Rather take a break a few hours later or maybe the next day, go through the slides that Abdullah has presented, which are the slides that are examined in Cricket South Africa's Level 1 exam, and I will be sending out those slides to you tomorrow morning with the link to the recording of today's lecture. Take your time. You've got 5 attempts. You've got 10 days. You can attempt the exam in the comfort of your home, school, office, anywhere with a decent internet connection. Make sure it's a good internet connection. Otherwise, the speed at which the questions are loaded will be slow if it is a poor internet connection. Those of you interested in partaking in level 2, level 2 will also be online and it will start in May 2025. All the level 1 passes will automatically be emailed the course material and logistics email a week before the first lecture. So you do not need to contact me and ask me when is level 2 happening. Please can you make sure that I'm alerted before the first lecture? You will be on our mailing list for level 2 as soon as you pass level 1. So that is the process to be followed from now until the 31st of October. But what and how do you register for the exam once you've paid? I am going to stop sharing that screen and I'm going to share the website, which will have a click-by-click demonstration of how to register, confirm your account, and then start the exam. So let us assume that this is your email inbox on Monday, the 21st of October at 8 a.m. South African time. Because you paid your exam fee before the cutoff date of Sunday, the 20th of October at 6 p.m. South African time, you will receive an email, not from me. I will generate it, but it will come from Umpires Universe Academy. Okay, so in this inbox, you see there are two emails from Umpires Universe Academy, because earlier, while Abdullah was busy presenting, I enrolled myself for level 1 exam, and this is what the email is going to look like on Monday morning. It says, welcome to the level 1 umpire examination online course. Please find the details you require to start the test. And quite importantly, you will all be tempted to click on the big red button that says get started. But before you can start the exam, you need to register for the exam. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to register myself for the level 1 exam, because we are actually going to go into this exam. And obviously I can't allow you to see the questions in the level 1 exam. So I am going to register myself for the introduction to umpiring exam. The process to register is exactly the same as registering for the level 1 umpire exam. Obviously, when we start the exam, you'll see that the questions are different to what you will receive on Monday morning with the level 1 umpire exam. So even the email looks exactly the same. It says you have been enrolled, and now the first step is to register. Don't go down and click on get started. You need to click on register. So this is what you'll do on Monday morning when you have got the exam link email from Umpires Universe saying that you've been enrolled in the level 1 umpiring exam. You need to register your account first. So I've been enrolled using the email address thomasmokorosi@mail.com. I needed to create a new email address because the Umpires Universe system does not send exam link emails to the same email address more than once. So obviously, over the years, having demonstrated this login and registering process, I have used all of my email addresses. So I need to create a new one each time. So you do not need to create a new email address because I assume none of you have done Cricket South Africa's level 1 umpiring exam before. So your email address will receive the online exam link email, but you still need to register. So I've registered. I've been enrolled using tom.mokorosi@mail.com, and I need to create a password. And I don't want to use the pre-populated strong password. I want to create my own password if it will allow me to do so. Choose my own password. And you need to be very careful to type it in once and type it in again exactly the same. It does need special characters and numbers as well. I'm just going to count the number of characters that I've put in. 10 characters in the top, and the confirmation also 10 characters. I just do that because my keyboard sometimes types in double letters or misses letters when I use them. So now I click on sign up, and I'm going to ask it to save my password. And quite weirdly, it gives you a message in red, but it's a good news message. It says the user has been created. Please check your email. So I go back to my email address. I go back to my inbox, and I've got a new email from Umpires Universe Academy, and it's asking me to confirm my email address. It says, thank you for signing up. Please confirm your account by clicking the below button. So I click on confirm account, and it takes me back to Umpires Universe, and it tells me that my account has been verified. Now I am no longer in the registration screen. I am now in the login screen for Umpires Universe. So I'm going to type in my username, tom.mokorosi@mail.com, and I'm going to type in the password that I've just recently created. And hopefully I've typed it in correctly. And yes, it lets me in. And now the first screen that you see are the courses that you have been enrolled for, or the exams that you have been enrolled for. As mentioned, I enrolled myself for both the level 1 umpire exam and also the introduction to umpiring exam. So you will all be only registered or enrolled for the level 1 umpire exam. So you will see this green graphic. You will not see this blue graphic. The reason, remember, that I've enrolled for both today is to show you what the level 1 exam looks like when you have enrolled and registered for it. But we are going to attempt the introduction to umpiring exam. So click on view course, and before we go into the exam, we need to put all our details in. So date of birth, quite importantly, to scroll through the years, just hover over the year, and then you can use the up and down buttons, because if you try and just scroll through the months, it will take you a very long time, especially if you are as old as I am. So there's my date of birth, there's my race, there's my gender, there's my city, Cape Town, and you, please, wherever you are in the world, put your current location. The provinces, if you are not in South Africa, then you need to select Western Cape. If you are in South Africa, you can select the province that you stay in. But for those of you in India and Pakistan, in the US, Canada, wherever you are in the world, if you're not in South Africa, just select Western Cape. Even though you've put in your city of Karachi or Mumbai or Amsterdam or New York, use the province Western Cape. So now we save changes. Don't worry too much if you get that error message. Your changes will be saved. I'm going to go back now, and I'm going to go back to the My Courses screen. And you will notice that because I have now filled in all my details, if I click on View Course again for Introduction to Umpiring, it's now going to take me to a new screen. You can click on play to watch some frequently asked questions and the answers to them, but we don't need to do that. We go straight to take test. Before we take the test, we need to agree to the terms of use. And then the most important part of this registration and logging on process is we need to select our provincial association. Now, this is important in that for me to receive your certificate, you need to select and scroll down all the way to the bottom, Western Province. Okay, these are all the 15 umpiring associations in South Africa. If you select Boland, your level 1 umpiring certificate will not be emailed to me. It will be emailed to Keegan Williams, who is the head of training for Boland Cricket Umpires Association. If you select Gauteng, your certificate will not be emailed to me. It will be emailed to Roger Byrne, who's the head of training for Gauteng Cricket Umpires Association. So wherever you are in the world and wherever you are in the country, vitally important for you to select Western Province as your provincial association. Yes, if you've passed the exam and I forward you your certificate, you can then apply to join any other umpires association in South Africa. But for me to be able to get your certificate, you need to all select Western Province. The last step before starting the exam is select your provincial association, Western Province. Now, before I go on to that, I'm going to go back into the chat box or into the meeting settings, and I'm going to allow for all of you to join in our mock exam question and answer session. So currently microphones and cameras are deactivated. I'm now activating them. And Abdullah, I would like you to help us to answer the questions. So the Introduction to Umpiring course, which we are taking the exam of, is 30 minutes long and it's 35 questions. All of them are true or false. So this will give you all an indication of what to expect in the level 1 exam. And it's also just a way for you to see how to navigate through the actual exam itself. The questions won't be the same, obviously, but the wording is quite key for you, especially with the true or false questions, to read the statements carefully. And remember what Abdullah said, if the entire statement is not 100% correct or 100% true, then mark it false. And keep that in mind when answering all of your questions. And if we don't get through all 35 questions, we will see what happens when we run out of time in an exam. Remember that the online Cricket South Africa Level 1 umpiring exam is 90 minutes, but this exam is only 35 minutes. So if we don't get through, this exam is only 30 minutes. If we don't get through all 35 questions in 30 minutes, then we will only submit the answers that we have attempted, and then we will get our mark. So Abdullah, I'm going to ask you to facilitate in the meeting room. Hands up from candidates who want to answer the questions. I'm clicking on Start Test, and there is currently a bug in the system that says we've already answered 34 questions and there's only one outstanding. That is not correct because we are only going to answer our first question now. So apologies for that. I believe the same bug exists for the level 1 exam. We're going to try and get it fixed before the 21st of October, but bear with us tonight while it's not working as it should. However, you will see different questions every time I click on submit. The timer on the top right tells you how much time you have left. So let's get going. Abdullah, umpires are the sole judges of fair and unfair play. Is that true or is that false? Do we have any hands in the meeting room that would like to help us answer this question, please?
Yes, Tom. First, quickest on the draw, Asif Hassan. Can you unmute your microphone and give us the answer, please?
Tom, it's true.
That is true, Asif. Umpires are the sole judges of fair and unfair play. It is in law number 2. We submit the answer, and you will see that it does take some amount of time to turn over to the next question, but it didn't take too long. It all depends on the speed of your internet connection and also your computer. Thanks, Asif. We're going to take the next question from the next candidate. Captains are responsible for their team's conduct. True or false? Abdullah?
Quickest on the draw, Tom. Sardar Habib. Can you unmute your microphone and give us the answer, please?
That's true.
That is true, Sata. Well done. Thank you. Captains are responsible for their team's conduct. Submit. And even though the time seemed to restart for the beginning of the second question, you can see now that from the second question onwards, the time keeps going down. Next statement. It is not against the spirit of the game to dispute umpires' decisions. And whenever there's a negative statement, you need to be very careful with true or false questions. Abdullah, do we have a new hand to help us?
Yes, we have a new hand, Tom. Javad Darial. Can you unmute your microphone, please, and give us the answer?
I'm not hearing anything, Abdullah.
Yeah, he is unmuted, but I think there's probably a problem with his microphone.
Yeah.
I can hear something now in the background, Tom.
Same.
Yes, I'm.
Go ahead, Jabit. It is not against the spirit of the game to dispute an umpire's decision. True or false?
Okay, I think he's got a problem with his mic, Tom. I'm going to go next in line, and again, I'm going to give preference to those hands that hasn't answered yet. So, Ududu, your hand was next up. Can you unmute your microphone, please, Ududu?
Okay, the answer is false.
That's correct, Ududu. It is against the spirit of the game to dispute an umpire's decision. Thank you. Submit and on to the next question. We will open the floor up for more questions and answers after we've gone through the mock exam. Next statement, teams are allowed to distract opponents verbally. True or false? Any new hands, Abdullah?
Yes, Tom. Paras Verma, can you unmute your microphone, please?
Yes, good afternoon, Tom and Abdullah. So teams are actually not allowed to distract opponents either by word or action. So it's under Law 41 and Law 41.4 and 41.5 come into play here.
Well done, Paras. Very good. Remember that Law 41 and Law 42 are not examined in Cricket South Africa's Level 1 exam, but there is a question on unfair play here, and you've nailed it. That is why we haven't presented Law 41 and Law 42, but it is in the presentation that I've sent as course material to everyone. Thanks.
So in case I'm planning to write level 3, so I'll have to prep all the 42 laws anyways, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Thank
Yes.
you. Okay.
Right. Next statement. A team can field with 12 players. Abdullah, any new hands to help us through this one?
There's lots of hands, Tom. So I'm going through the list just to see any new hands. Yamkela, can you unmute your microphone, please? Are you able to hear Yamkela?
No, I'm hearing a very scrambled noise in the background there, Abdullah.
Yeah. And next hand was Lalit. Lalit, can you unmute your microphone, please? Okay, next hand, Tom, AVT.
Hello, you can hear me?
Yes, Abiwe, go ahead, sir. How are you?
I'm good. No, you can't field with 12 players, but you can bet with 12 players. For example, warm-up match for pre ICC T20 or 50 overs. Yeah. The correct statement is false.
Thanks, Abiwe. Keep up the good work in the border region. Abdullah, I'm just going to go into the meeting room to mute everybody, and then we can continue with the rest of the questions. Right. Next. That didn't seem to help. Let me try again. All attendees. Yeah, there we go. Okay, next statement. Umpires before the toss don't need to determine the times of play. Abdullah, true or false? Next new hand, please.
Frederick, you quickest on the draw. Can you unmute your microphone and give us the answer, please?
That's going to be false.
That is false, Frederick. Umpires do need to determine the times of play before a new match. Thank you very much. Let us submit and go on to the next statement. The bowlers and umpire to stand anywhere that he or she feels comfortable. Abdullah, true or false? Is there any restriction on where the bowlers and umpire stands?
Let Vitesh give us the answer. Vitesh?
Hi, good evening. The answer is false.
I tend to agree with you, Vitesh. There is a limitation there. The law states that, yes, They can stand where they feel comfortable, but they need to be out of they need to not be in a position that will distract the striker. So I will go with false because the statement is not 100% correct. We will see at the end of our submission if we've got answers right or wrong. Thanks, Vitesh. Next statement. Dead ball signal is made by extending both arms horizontally, as I'm doing now. The dead ball signal is made by extending both arms horizontally. Abdullah, true or false? Probably the easiest question tonight so far.
Bakang, can you give us the answer, please?
Evening, Tom, Abdullah, and my fellow candidates. The answer is false. You need to cross your arms.
That's correct, Bakang. The signal described in that statement is, of course, the wide ball signal. Thank you, sir. All the best for the exam. I have submitted, and we have a new question or new statement that has come up. An umpire may signal 4 byes in one motion to the scorers. So one hand up and one hand signaling 4. True or false, Abdullah? Can an umpire signal 4 byes in one motion to the scorers?
A few old hands, Tom. Let's give it a few more seconds until I see a new hand. AJ, can you unmute your microphone, please?
No, the answer is false.
That's correct, AJ. Signals need to be made individually and acknowledged individually by the scorers. Thank you very much. Next statement. The pitch length is the same for all ages. What does the law say about the length of the pitch for junior cricket? Abdullah, any new hands? True or false, please?
Asif Hassan, can you unmute your microphone, please?
Tom, it is false.
Asif, false is correct. The law tells us that junior cricket pitches are allowed to be shorter than 20.12 meters as prescribed by the governing body in that country. So we submit and go on to the next statement. A change of innings will be classified as an interval. So when one team is dismissed before the next team bats next, we have a change of innings. Is that change of innings classified as an interval, Abdullah? Any new hands? True.
Yes, Makoala, can you unmute your microphone, please? Makaula? I don't see any movement from... I'll go to the next one. Tom Rees, can you unmute your microphone, please, and give us the answer?
True.
That is true, Reese. A change of innings is definitely classified as a scheduled interval. Submit that, and we're on to the next statement. The bowlers and umpire to call play after any interval or interruption. Abdullah, what do we call after an interval and an interruption for the match to resume? Is that true or false? New hands, please.
I don't see any hands, Tom. Okay, there. Eloise. Eloise, can you unmute your microphone?
Yeah, good evening. That's true.
That is true indeed. We do need to call play after any interval or interruption. So we will submit that and we will go on to the next statement. A striker may set off for a run from in front of the popping crease. So if, for example, a striker takes guard and his or her stance is outside of the popping crease, hits the ball into the covers, and wants to take a single, they do not have to go back into their crease before taking off for the single. Is this true or is this false? Any new hands, Abdullah? Any hands?
Fine, Bossy. Fine, Bossy. You're the only hand that's raised. Can you unmute your microphone? I think Fine Bossy's got issues with his microphone. I'm going to the next line and raise Tom is Xavier Dariel.
False.
Javier? So if a batter is batting outside of his crease and hits the ball, do they need to go back into their crease before starting the single? Have you ever seen that happen before? Do you want to try again? So I think it's true, isn't it? Yes, we're going to go with true. A striker may set off for a run from in front of the popping crease. We're going to submit that and on to our next statement. Next statement, umpires do not need to agree the boundaries with the captains. So if we get there and there are no ropes, Abdullah, we can just play without agreeing where exactly the boundary is. True or false? Any new hands, please?
I see Fine Bossy's hands raised again, Tom. So I'm going to give that person the opportunity again to unmute your microphone and give us the answer.
Now let's try again. It's false.
Yeah, loud and clear.
Perfect. Correct. We do need to agree the boundaries with the captains before a game. So this statement is false. Again, apologies. We don't know how many questions are left because this counter is a little bit faulty. We do know that we've got 13 minutes left. Next statement, the ball becomes dead when it lodges in the clothing of an umpire. True or false, Abdullah? Next, fresh hand.
Yeah, new hand that I see, Tom. Ali Ahmad Gul.
Well, it is true.
It is true, Ali Ahmad. Well done. Thank you very much. Moving swiftly along to the next statement. A bowler may change his delivery mode without informing the umpire. Abdullah did mention this earlier in our lectures. True or false? Any fresh hands, Abdullah?
No, Tom. There's lots of regulars. No fresh hands. Let's give it a few more seconds to see if I see a fresh hand. Tom, I don't see a fresh hand, but quickest on the draw is AJ.
The answer is false.
The answer is false. Of course, we know that if a bowler changes his or her mode of delivery without informing the umpire shall call and signal no ball. Thanks, AJ. Next statement. The bowler's back foot may touch the return crease when delivering the ball. True or false? Any new hands, Abdullah?
Yes, Tom. Juliet. Can you unmute your microphone and give us the answer, please, Juliet?
The answer is false.
That is correct, Juliet. If a bowler's back foot touches the return crease on delivery, what shall the bowlers and umpire call?
No ball.
No ball is the correct answer. Thank you. Some tag team work there. Next statement. The call of no ball shall override the call of wide. True or false? Which is boss? No ball or wide? Any new hands there, Dula?
No new hands, Tom. I only see lots of regulars. Let's give it a few more seconds, see if I can see a new hand. Yes, I do see a new hand. Abhishek, can you unmute your microphone, please? Give us the answer.
Yeah, it's true.
That is true, Abhishek. Well done. The call of no ball does indeed override the call of wide. Thank you. Moving swiftly along. Not sure how many questions left, but we are getting there. Slowly but surely. Next statement. Umpire to call wide before the ball passes the striker's wicket. Is this true or is this false? Abdullah, any new hands?
No new hands, Tom. Let's just give it a few more seconds. No new hands. I'll go first. That was quickest on the draw. Tom was Bakang.
The answer is false.
The answer is indeed false, Bakang. We need to wait until the ball passes the striker's wicket before we call wide. Otherwise, we could end up with egg on our face if the striker makes contact with the ball, as wide as it might be. Next statement, a batter can be dismissed from a wide delivery. True or false? One of the slides that Abdullah presented this evening will give us that answer. Any new hands, Abdullah?
No. Heinrich, that's a new hand. Heinrich, can you unmute your microphone and give us the answer, please?
That is true.
That is true, Heinrich. There are 4 ways that a batter can be out of a wide. We won't go through them, but it definitely is true. Next statement, a leg bye can be scored if the batter does not attempt to play the ball. Is this true or is this false? Abdullah?
Lots of regulars, Tom. I'm just looking for a new hand. Just give it a few more seconds. I'm hoping to see a new hand. Okay, no new hand, Tom. Quickest on the draw was Paras Verma. Can you unmute your microphone, please?
Thank you, Abdullah. So a leg bye cannot be scored if the batter does not attempt to play the ball according to Law 23. The runs will be disallowed and any not out batter will be returned to their original ends.
Thanks, Paras. You get bonus points as well for your explanation. Well done.
Level 3 requires all the explanation.
That's correct. Yes, I think it's a 6-mark question in the level 3 exam. So you're getting prepared for that. Next statement: an injured player may have a substitute at any time. Abdullah, any new hands, or are we going for a regular?
So far, only one hand, Tom, which is a regular. Let me just give it a few more seconds, see if we can find a new hand.
While we give it a few more seconds, Abdullah, I'm just going to mute everybody again in the meeting room because I'm getting quite a lot of feedback. There we go. Nice and silent. as the bowler runs in to deliver the next ball.
Only one hand still up, Tom. It's Fynbossie.
Let's go.
Fynbossie, can you unmute your microphone, please, and give us the answer?
It's true.
It is true. An injured player may have a substitute at any time, I suppose, during the game. But yeah, that's I would also go with true. Thanks, Fynbossie. Next statement. A substitute may act as a wicketkeeper. This law was changed in 2017. Abdullah, do we have any new hands to answer this or regulars?
So far, 2 regulars, Tom.
The regulars are very keen for.
They are very. There's about 7 or 8 regulars, Tom.
Lovely, lovely.
Chapiso, there I see a new name. Chapiso. Can you unmute your microphone, please?
It's true.
It is true, Tsepiso, quite correct. A substitute may act as a wicketkeeper with the consent of the umpires. Next statement, a fielder may return to the field without the consent of the umpires. Ooh, sneaky, sneaky. Abdullah, any new hands or are we back with the regulars?
We're back with the regulars.
Mm.
And the regulars are quick on the draw, Tom. Let's just give it a few more seconds. I'm hoping to get to see a new hand.
The regulars are very excited for next week.
They are. Quickest on the draw. Okay, there I see a new hand. No, I wanted to go regular. Hope I'm pronouncing this correctly. Brotobo. Brotobo, I see your microphone is unmuted. Can you give us the answer, please?
Sorry, Protobo, I was just muting other participants there. A fielder may return to the field without the consent of the umpire. False is the correct answer. Thank you very much. Well done. All the best for your exam. Let us submit. We've got less than 4 minutes left on the timer. Next statement, a batter may retire at any time during his or her innings. Any newbies, Dula, or back to regular programming?
Regular programming, Tom. But let's give it a few seconds. I don't see any newbies, Tom. Quickest on the draw, Asif Hassan.
It's true.
Asif, the law says that a batter may retire at any time during his innings when the ball is dead. So I'm not sure if this statement is 100% correct. I think on its own, it is 100% correct. To be more correct, it would need that little bit of extra. But let's mark it true, and we will see later on when we submit our answers whether it's true or false. Next statement, Abdullah, an umpire may give a batter out without an appeal. Law 31, appeals, was dealt with last week, Monday, I think. Is this true or false? Any new hands?
Takatsu, can you unmute your microphone, please, and give us the answer?
It's false.
It is false indeed, Takatsu. Well done, thank you. An umpire needs an appeal to be able to give a batter out. Next appeal that we are taking is An appeal covers all ways of being out, all modes of dismissals. True or false, Abdullah? New hands or regular programming to resume?
Regular programming to presume. Let's give it a few more seconds. Hopefully we can see a new hand.
I will mute everybody in the meantime. There we go.
Lots of regulars, Tom. I'm going to give Sardar Habib the opportunity now. Sardar, can you unmute your microphone, please?
Hi, and thank you for your hard work. So it does true cover. It's true because when they ask for how's that, so they are asking for an appeal. So it does cover.
Yes, one appeal covers all 9 modes of dismissal. You do not need to ask the bowler or fielding side what they are appealing for. You need to answer for all modes of dismissals. We've got 35 seconds left, Abdullah. A batter will not be given out if the ball touches an umpire. True or false? We saw this on one of our videos. Who's going to give us the last answer for this introduction to umpiring mock exam?
Let's give it 2 more seconds, Tom. There's no new hands. Quickest on the draw was Bakang. Bakang?
Hello, it's false.
It is false. I had to think about that one because it's got a negative in the statement, but it is actually correct. A batter will be given out if the ball touches an umpire. So the negative statement is false. Just read your true or false questions carefully before answering and submitting your answer. So our time has expired on the top right. Let's see what happens now when we submit. It tells us that we have to submit all our answers now because our time is up, and we can see that out of the 35 questions, we did not answer 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 35 minus 8 tells us that we only submitted 27 answers, 27 out of 35. If we got all of them right that we attempted, we should get 77%. So let's see if we got 77% or there were others that we got wrong that we did attempt. Get results. When you get results, it automatically marks your exam. And there you see we only got 68%. So some of them that we answered incorrectly. And this is useful for you when you don't pass your exam to study which questions you got incorrect, and then you will be able to go to the presentation that Abdullah delivered this evening with the revision slides, and you can polish up on those issues or the topics and laws that you got incorrect answers for. So again, a reminder and a suggestion: don't go immediately to restart. Go home, relax, take a shower, sleep. The next day you can reattempt your exam. How will you reattempt your exam? You will simply go back to your initial email that you received, and I'm going to go to this one, which was the Introduction to Umpiring course. You, of course, will go to the Level 1 Umpiring course. and you will now be able to log in because you've registered and because you've confirmed your account, because you've gone through your first exam. This is now the next day when you've gone through your revision and you want to attempt the exam again. You click on log in and it takes you to the login page of Umpires Universe. And I will just show you exactly how to log in again and go for your next attempt for that exam. It says invalid password. Let me just type it in slowly again. As mentioned, my keyboard is sometimes faulty. I just need to be careful there. Straight, of course, I didn't put .com after mail. That's my problem. And then I think my password was probably correct all this time. There we go. And remember, you'll be going to the level 1 umpire exam, the green one, but we are busy with the blue one. So I click on view course and I click on take test, and I don't need to submit all my details again. The only thing that I need to do is agree to the terms of use, and it defaults me back to Western Province, which is where all of you need to select for your provincial association. And I click on start test, and there my full time available again, and the questions come up. Now, the questions sometimes come in a different order to what you had them before. Sometimes it'll be in the same order. It's just randomly selected by Umpires Universe, whether you get the same order of questions or a different order of questions. But it is the same 69 questions that you will get for each attempt. So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that helps you to understand the process of registering for your exam, confirming your account, logging in, and starting the exam. Most important, remember to select Western Province as your provincial association so that your certificate is emailed to training@wpcua.co.za when you achieve the pass mark of 80%. So that is the click-by-click demonstration of the exam over. I am now going to go into the chat box to see what you have all been talking about while we've been presenting. Thank you so much for your patience. We've taken 2.5 hours today, but that's fine because it was very important content that we got through. First question from this evening's lecture, Abdullah, is from Reese. In terms of proper umpiring practice, whenever there's a scheduled interval, like a drinks break or an innings change, umpires often position the bails differently, like putting them on top of the stumps or leaving one on. Is there a set pattern or a prescribed manner as to what to do with the bails at the end of a session? Abdullah, you want to take that one for us, please?
Yes, Tom. So, Reese, my method is the law tells us at the call of time or after the call of time, remove both bails from both set of stumps. So my interpretation of remove both bails from both set of stumps is you need to remove them from on top of the stumps. So I take them off out of their grooves and I put them at the bottom of the stump. So I just flick them off both bails and I don't put them. I've seen umpires do just lift them slightly and then put them on top of the stumps. I've seen that.
That one is not my method. The law tells us remove both bails from both set of stumps. My interpretation of remove is totally off on the floor. So I put them on the floor. I'm not sure what method you use, Tom.
I'm one of those who are guilty of putting the bails on top of the off stump and on top of the leg stump as well.
I'm not saying it's incorrect. I'm just saying my interpretation is remove them. If you leave them on top of the stumps, technically they're still on top of the stumps.
Correct. And we did see that video on the wicket is down where the bowler bowled and it clipped the off stump and the off bail went out of the groove but landed on top of the off stump, and the bowler was denied a wicket because the wicket wasn't fairly put down. So I agree with you. The correct procedure is to take the bails completely off the top of the stumps onto the ground. But to be honest with you, Reese, it's not a very important aspect of umpiring. I see a few umpires even leave the bails on top of the stumps in their normal position when walking off for an interval. It's not going to get you fired as an umpire. I can tell you that. Next question is from Tepiso. Is it fair for the fielding team to get a penalty because the batters are taking their time to get onto the pitch? Abdullah, I can only think of timed out as the penalty that a batter can receive for taking too long to arriving. Is there any other penalty that the fielding side receives?
Yes, Tom, there is a playing condition. It's not a penalty. I wouldn't say penalty as such, but if the umpires feel that the batters are taking a bit of time, you cannot penalize the fielding side. So you can go under Law 41, which speaks about batters wasting time. You can, if you want to apply that rule. You can also, that time that extra or additional time that the batters take to get to the wicket cannot penalize the fielding side. You can take that into account in terms of the overrate for the fielding side. The playing condition even allows you to add those time that they do take longer, to add it to their overrate time. So the playing condition, there's a playing condition that covers that, Tom.
Perfect. Thanks, Dula. The next question is from Shiva, and it is for Vijay. Vijay, apologies for keeping you for so long, but I see you are still with us. Thank you for staying. The question from Shiva is that he missed the first in-person training held in Dallas, Texas, in June for the ICC Level 1 umpiring certification. When is the next one going to happen? Can you give them an idea, please, Vijay, and how can they apply, please?
So a communication was sent via email from USA Cricket as to when and where the workshops are planned. So the email was, I forwarded the email to Shiva, so he should be having that information now.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Vijay, and all the best to you and Jermaine, I imagine, who will be rolling out those face-to-face components of the ICC Level 1 umpiring course in the United States.
Yeah, Jermaine will be one of them for one of the workshops, but wherever availability doesn't permit, there are other tutors as well in different parts of the country. They will be taking care of the in-person classroom training session.
Excellent. Yes, of course. In New York in June, there was an umpire tutor course. So a lot more tutors have been accredited to roll out the level 1.
Yeah.
Well done, and keep going with the good work.
Yeah,
That's
and Abdullah. Online training is candidate less time in terms of commute, especially for lower levels of the exams and stuff. But again, good luck to everyone for your exams. Wish you all the best.
Thanks, Vijay, for all your support, and I'm sure we'll be in touch soon as usual.
Yeah, thanks, Vijaya. Good to hear you again. Bye, Vijaya. Cheers.
Yes. Yeah, take care, Abdullah. Take care, Tom. Good luck, everyone. Bye.
Cheers. Next question is from AJ. A ball passes on the full but below waist height of the striker and bounces behind the pitch. Abdullah, I'm assuming it's still in line with the pitch, but behind the stumps. So AJ wants to know, is this called as a no ball or is it a fair delivery?
Tom, I'm going to cover two scenarios because AJ, another possibility is on the full off the pitch. That could be a possibility as well. I'm going to cover the first possibility the first scenario where on the full, below waist height, and the ball lands for the first time behind the striker's wicket, or i.e. the bowling crease. So if the ball lands on the full, still on the pitch, behind the bowling crease or behind the striker's wicket, that would be a fair delivery. The law wants the second scenario when it comes to being a no ball is it needs to be off the pitch, and the length of the pitch is 3.05 meters if I use the metric system. So it needs to be on the full, off the pitch, and if it lands behind the striker's wicket, on the full, off the pitch, behind the striker's wicket, it will be a wide. If it lands on the full, off the pitch, in front of the striker's wicket, it will be a no ball. Over, Tom.
Thanks, Dula. AJ, I hope that answers every variety of your question possible. Frederick asks, if the batter advances and the ball hits the pad in a wicket-to-wicket area, can you consider it for LBW? So a double step down the wicket, Abdullah, and the ball hits the pads. Can we consider giving the striker out leg before wicket?
Yeah, Frederick, any LBW appeal, you go through your process. It's not a no ball. Where did it pitch? In your instance, it pitched between wicket and wicket. Where did it hit? Looking at your, hearing your question that Tom just read, it looks like it hit between wicket and wicket. And then there's still that very last question that you need to ask yourself, and you need to then be 100% sure. In your opinion, would that ball have gone on to hit the stumps? If your answer to that question is yes, you need to give the batter out LBW. If the answer to the last question is no, I don't think it would have gone on to hit the stumps, you need to give not out LBW. But there's also, we go through those 6 law points that you consider when there's an LB appeal, but there's also other factors that you do take into account when considering an LBW appeal. I'm not going to go through all those factors, things like how much spin, height, those type of things. In your scenario, the big factor that you need to take into account in your appeal is, traveling distance. Stepping down, there's still, usually if you step down 2-3 steps, taking into account the popping crease is 1.22 meters from the stumps. So if you double step or triple step, you definitely more than 2 meters, sometimes up to 3 meters away from the stumps. So 3 meters traveling distance to the stumps. Are you 100% sure that that ball would have gone on to hit the wicket? If your answer to the question is yes, if you're brave, by all means, you can give it. It's your opinion. LBW is an opinion law, but I do feel traveling distance is a huge consideration that you need to take into account. But it's still it's your opinion, and looking at it, and if you feel it's going to go on and hit the stumps, you can give it out. Over, Tom.
Thanks, Dula. Next couple of questions from Celso and Fane Bossy are about the exam. Two of them have made payment and they want to know when the exam link email will be sent. So Celso and Fane Bossy, as mentioned just before the exam demonstration, the window period for payment ends on Sunday, the 20th of October at 6 p.m. South African time. And I will email the next morning everybody who has sent proofs of payment to training@wpcua.co.za. I will generate exam link emails from Umpires Universe to those email addresses that have been paid for on Monday, the 21st of October at 8 a.m. South African time. All of you will receive the exam link emails at that time and will need to follow the instructions as I've demonstrated how to register, confirm your account, log into Umpires Universe, fill in all your details and start the level 1 exam. You will have a window period of 10 days to attempt the exam up to 5 times to achieve the pass mark of 80%. The exam is an open book exam, so while you attempt your exam, you can have the lecture that Abdullah presented earlier today, the revision slides handy for you to use to answer the questions. There are 69 questions, true or false, and multiple choice questions. And you submit your answers as demonstrated earlier in the lecture. All the course material is attached to all the emails I've been sending over the last couple of weeks. And tomorrow morning, I will send the last course material email with recordings of all 7 lectures, a link to download the entire course presentation, including 42 laws. I will also include the revision slides that Abdullah presented today, as well as the match preparation presentation that Abdullah presented last week, Tuesday. So you will have all the course material that you will need, study throughout the week so that next week, Monday, 8 a.m., you are able to register first, confirm your account, log in, enter your details, and attempt the exam for the first time. I hope that explains the process for the exam. Throughout this week, I will be emailing every night a list of the email addresses which are going to receive the exam link email because they have been paid for. Okay. Odudu Essien says, how do I pay? Because PayPal isn't allowed in Nigeria. Odudu, I have got a bank account that receives wire transfers from international accounts around the world. I will copy and paste the details of that account into the chat box in the next few seconds. And the amount that you need to send is either 500 South African rands or $30 US. So I am replying to your question and adding the details of that bank account into the chat box. I hope that sorts that out for you, Oduru. So a few of you answered the front foot and back foot no balls that Abdullah was displaying. Imran, you're asking for bank account details to be shared. I've just shared them. Javed as well. Please refer to the bottom of the chat box. For South African bank account details, they are on the email that I send on a daily basis. Abhishek says, the game is to be played under the spirit of cricket. Agreed. But is there any check on the amount of spirit levels for the players and the umpire putting check on them or making them unfit for stepping on the field of play? So Abhishek, remember that the umpires can only encourage the players to play within the spirit of cricket. They cannot force captains to withdraw unsporting appeals, for example. And what is spirit of cricket to one person might be different to the next person. It's really all about you as a player knowing and feeling what is right and doing the right thing and not the wrong thing. With experience, we all know what the spirit of cricket requires of us, and hopefully the players will deliver as the law book suggests. But as mentioned, us as umpires cannot force it upon players or captains. Right. A few more answers for the introduction to umpiring course questions given in the chat box. Thanks for your participation. Path has given us the ways that a batter can be out of a wide ball, hit wicket, obstructing the field, run out, and stumped. And then Path asks, any recommendation on the benchmarks for a light meter, acknowledging that there are multiple factors including location of the ground? Abdullah?
For non-televised game, Tom. My question is fine. Just wanted to clarify.
Sure. For a non-televised game, Abdullah, do we have benchmarks for what is good light, what is bad light, what is spin benchmark, what is fast bowlers benchmarks when it comes to judging of light?
No, Tom. It varies from ground to ground, from conditions to conditions. You can have same ground on day one. It will be overcast for most of the day, or whole day, going into the evening session. And then on another day, let's say day two, you can have bright sunshine, and the cover only comes through the evening session. So it can differ from ground to ground, stadium to stadium, location to location. But to answer your question, no, there are no benchmarks when it comes to light meter readings. It is on the day, the conditions that you're experiencing on the day, and when it comes to light, the light meters is the secondary tool that we go to. The first tool part that we use is our eyes. The umpires make a judgment call with the eyes, looking at the conditions, taking into account the bowlers that's also bowling. So if it's dark and fast bowlers are bowling, so we make a judgment call with our eyes. So I'll give you through. I'll take you through an example. What we do on in modern cricket when it comes to judging the light. Let's say it's the final session or the third session of the day. Bad light is setting in. So what the two on-field umpires will do is there will be lots of non-verbal communication between the two umpires. What do I mean by non-verbal comms? Is they will look at each other and they will give each other signs like thumbs up, I think the light is still good. Or they'll give this sign, I think, yes, the light is still good, but it is fading. Signs like the light is busy fading. A sign like I think it is too dark. So there will be lots of non-verbal comms. And let's say a fast bowler is bowling at the time. So the first thing that the on-field umpires will look at is with their eyes. That's the primary, or the first protocol. Do they think it is too dark for the fast bowlers bowling at the time? If the answer to that question is yes, the two of them is in agreement that it is now too dark for fast bowlers. What they will then do is, after they made that decision, based on the conditions and making the decision using their eyes, they will then take out the light meter and take a reading. They'll take a reading from both ends of the ground, and they'll make a note of that reading in their notebook. They'll write down south end of the ground, the light meter shows the stump sucking numbers 4.5. North end, light meter shows 4.1. Those two readings are then their fast bowlers reading, and that is then their benchmark for the rest of the game, fast bowlers. What they'll then do is they will then go to the fielding captain and tell the fielding captain, we feel it is too dark for fast bowlers to bowl. Are you going to bowl your spinners? They'll give the fielding captain the option to bowl spin. If the fielding captain decides, no, I want to bowl my fast bowlers, we then felt as umpires, it is too dark for fast bowlers, we will then take the players off the field. If the fielding captain takes up the option to bowl spin, we will then allow play to continue because our eyes felt it's too dark for fast bowlers, and the light meter reading we took was for fast bowlers. We'll then allow play to continue using spin. We will then again follow the same procedure. We will play on for as long as possible until the two umpires agree that it is now too dark to play to play spin in. We will not look at the light meter. We will make that judgment with our eyes. Once we get to that moment that the two umpires agree, yes, I think it's now too dark to play even for spin bowling. We will then inform the fielding captain, it is now too dark for spin bowling. We are now taking the players off the field. We will then take out our light meters and we will then take a light meter reading both ends of the ground, and we will write down those readings into our notebook, and that will be our spin bowling readings for the rest of the game. Let's say it's 2.9 and 2.5, and we'll write that down. Now we have a benchmark for the rest of the game. So we'll have a fast bowlers benchmark, and we'll have a spin bowling benchmark, and we will apply those benchmark for the rest of the game. So just to summarize, first thing we do is we use our eyes to make that judgment call. Yes, it's too dark for fast bowlers. We'll take a reading. If we'll give the fielding captain the option to bowl spin, if he or she takes the option, we'll then continue. Once we see with our eyes, we'll make that judgment call. It is now too dark for spin. We will then inform the fielding captain, and we'll take down a spin bowling reading, and that would be our benchmark throughout the game. So there is no fixed benchmark. It's just what our eyes telling us. You cannot apply. Let's say last week you've used a fast bowling benchmark of 5 and 5, and then this week apply that same benchmark. The reason why you cannot apply the same benchmark, because conditions will definitely be different. And they are from week to week. Similarly, grounds are also different. Parts of the countries are also different. We are in South Africa. We do know that in our province called Durban and Pietermaritzburg, sunset very early in that part of the region. It gets dark quickly compared to places like in Cape Town, where the sun do set in summer at 8 o'clock in the evening. So different grounds, different conditions. Some grounds are in just under a mountain, some not under a mountain, some in clear. It's so much variables. But you cannot apply same readings for different venues, even same venue, but if it's a different game, different conditions. Over Tom.
Thanks, Dula. Just to add, even 2 different light meters will give you 2 different readings. So we definitely can't use a general benchmark. It is specific to each match and each day, and definitely each venue and each light meter. Cool. Next question is from Asif. He asks, Abdullah, what is the thickness of the crease lines? Is it 1.5 inches? Is it 2 inches? Is there a guideline as to how thin or how thick the lines should be painted? You're still on mute there, Dula.
Sorry, Tom, rookie error. Asif, there is no guidelines. Because why is there no guidelines? Because it really doesn't matter how thick that line is. And why doesn't it matter how thick that line is? Because when let's use the popping crease as an example. When it comes to the popping crease, we use the back edge of the popping crease as the line that we look at. So for runouts, the bat or any part of the person needs to be grounded behind the back edge of the popping crease for the batter to have made good ease or ground. Similarly, let's say front foot no ball, you need to have part of your front foot with a grounder to raise behind the back edge of the popping crease. So even if that popping crease is this thick, doesn't matter. You need to have your foot behind the back edge of the popping crease. So for that reason, doesn't matter. And yes, you do find at different grounds the creases the popping crease being different sizes. But because we look at the back edge of the popping crease, doesn't really matter how big or the width of that crease is. Over, Tom.
Thanks, Dula. Vitesh asks, can we register for the test on the first day and take the test on a different day? Yes, Vitesh, That 10-day window period applies from the 21st of October to the 31st of October. You can register on the 21st, you can register on the 23rd, you can register on the 28th. You can register anytime. Just make sure that